This road trip was pretty spur of the moment. It was pushed into action the week before my spring break because I unfortunately had gotten COVID and was planning on just staying home for most of spring break. But after quarantining in my apartment alone for a week, I could not be less interested in spending another week by myself in my apartment. Road tripping is something that I love to do, and I love to do alone. It provides so much time for reflection and just observing the beauty of the natural world. I really get so romantic when I'm on a road trip. It's ridiculous. I don't think there's any way to romanticize how expensive gas was, though. So I left San Francisco on Highway 101, and I was going to take that all the way up to Portland. I knew that the trip would be highly dependent on weather, as my trip south down to San Francisco was very dictated by the fact that it was going to snow all along the I-5 corridor. I had intended to drive to California to be in the sun, but as you can see, it was pretty rainy. I really vibed with this graffiti. My plan on my first day of driving was to drive from San Francisco to around Oric, California, which is in the Humboldt Redwoods State Park. I had a couple stops that I was excited about on this day. One was at Humboldt Pie in Arcata, California. This pie shop was recommended to me by a really close friend who had done this drive before, and he said it was the best because it is a pie store that is also connected to a brewery. Now, every time that I have stopped at this pie place, it has not been an appropriate hour to consume an adult beverage, but they do also have kombucha on tap, so it's clutch. I also was really looking forward to stopping in a small town that I had found the last time that I did this drive, which is the town of Trinidad, California. There's a delightful fish and chips place in Trinidad, and if you are ever in the neighborhood, I think you should check it out. So I was approaching the Redwood State Park and getting to my campsite. This is the Gold Bluffs Beach campsite, and here I am setting up camp, which really just involves parking the van. I got on my hiking boots and was amazed to find that the sun had come out and it was no longer raining. It had been pouring during my entire drive, and I thought that it was just going to be a really, really damp night. And then instead, I parked the car, I got out, I set up my bed, and the sun was beautiful and came out and was so clear. I took that opportunity to go for a long beach walk, which is just one of the salves of my soul. I could have spent hours just sitting on this empty beach, staring at the waves and basking in the sun. It was such a serene experience to walk on this beach that was completely empty and also had no footprints or signs of any other humans having been there. I just felt simultaneously so big and so small. I felt like I had found so many amazing things on this walk. This grabbing net and this sand dollar among them. I walked back to the campsite to find that almost every other person in the campsite had spilled out onto the beach and was basking in the sun too. When just enjoyed the beautiful place that I found myself. I fell asleep that night with the sound of rain on the roof of the van, which is so soothing. Good morning. I went and tried to do my skincare in the campsite bathroom, which was chaos. But this is just a quick little view of the campsite and the little living in the distance. As I left, I saw elk, which was so exciting, though the road was kind of treacherous. It was another rainy day on Highway 101, and my goal this day was to make it to Oregon. I can't remember if I had a campsite this night. I think I didn't. I was kind of flying by the seat of my pants. I was having a wildly introspective day this day, and I think it was probably not aided by the rain and also the very dramatic scenery. But I took the opportunity to call some of my friends and just talk to them as I was driving. And I also took the opportunity to get some fish and chips that were so good. They even brought them to the car, which was so sweet. Later that afternoon, I stopped in Bandon, Oregon, and took a walk out to the pier. I also got myself a cup of coffee, which was maybe a chaotic decision at 4 in the afternoon, but I kind of anticipated that I would be driving until late into the night. There's something romantic about driving, especially on the Oregon coast. It has such a sense of history. There are all these vintage signs and little towns that I can only imagine, back in the day, were fed by the tourism of Highway 101. And there are so many amazing bridges and beautiful estuaries and coves that you pass as you drive north. I spent a lot of this drive listening to Carrie and Lowell, which I felt was pretty apropos. I love that album with my whole heart, and nothing can make me cry in the same way. As I left North Bend, I was delighted to see the sun and to get to experience some of the majesty of the Oregon coast in the light of day. It is such a windy, beautiful drive. I hope you don't get car sick. Around dinner time, I stopped at the Cedar Head Lighthouse and took the half-mile walk up the bluff to see the beach from above and also to see the lighthouse. It was such a magical afternoon, and I don't really know why, but to see the sun and to see the waves and the bluffs was specifically beautiful. There was also a moment where everyone else had left the lighthouse and I was the only one sitting up there, and again I just had the moment of feeling, so big, but also so small. I had only planned on a short visit to the Cedar Head Lighthouse, but by the time that I got back down to the beach from the lighthouse, I couldn't help but take a walk in the setting sun towards the decided to call it a night early that night and drove a few minutes north to Tilikum Beach to spend the night and catch the sunset. The next morning, I hit the road, ready to go and get to Manzanita. I knew that this was my destination since a good family friend has a cabin there, and I was holding up there for the night. During this drive, though, I started getting a little freaked out about weather because even in the lowland mountains, I was starting to see snow, which I hadn't expected at all. I took the opportunity to stop somewhere I've never been before, which was the Tillamook Cheese Factory. I've driven this stretch of highway so many times before in my life, but never stopped